Oh, there we are. This has been a lastminute.com for me. I literally just come back from a curry with the wife. So Kevin's been waiting patiently for me. And Alex, obviously, he's still at the curry house, I'm guessing. So, yeah, welcome everyone to the YEV podcast. YEV, Kev?
Why not?
Exactly. Why the hell not? And today we are going to be talking about noise on EVs. And I'm sure Alex will be joining us shortly because he has got an opinion. It sounded like, Kevin, when he was talking on WhatsApp, it sounded like he's changed his opinion, actually. And
well, it's interesting.
Sorry, I was just going to say, Kev, it's probably down to the fact that he and yourself have been the proud reviewers of the Hyundai Ioniq 5N. So, Kev, what's your thoughts about electric car noise before and after the 5N as well?
Well, see, I've had an opinion that maybe it didn't have to be a car noise, but I'm starting to think that maybe my opinion's changed. Possibly because, I think it's a lot of our, pedestrians as well. Our brains have been trained on the noise of an engine note. And it's on cue. Here's Alex.
There he is.
Apologies.
That's no problem.
You'd have to say sorry, mate. I've already explained the situation. You're busy having a shit.
What a day.
Sorry for my language. Sorry, Kev. We're just talking about noise on EVs, as you know, Rumble. Alex, although he's frozen now in time in a very awkward position. Look at that. Again. Sorry, I've had a beer, so this might get a bit more rowdy than normal. Sorry, Kev.
That's all right. Sorry.
Oh, and you've frozen again.
There we go.
There we go. All right, so where were we? So noise. So yeah, I've kind of thinking that maybe electric cars can have any noise they want, but don't think we should exclude them from having engine noise. And I've just realized I've taken the padding down from my garage door and I've got a massive echo from myself now, which
we can hear you loud and clear, mate. It's all right. It's fine. Yeah. It's absolutely fine.
Yeah. No, it's more annoying me than you guys probably.
It's not about you, Kev. It's about the viewers. It's about the listeners as well. Yeah. And we're actually on X today for the first time. So hopefully we've got a few X-ites or Elon Musk crew. So just to catch up, Alex. So basically you're saying that you had quite a big opinion about noise on EVs, which sounds like it's changed since you've had the Ioniq 5N. So yeah, tell us about it.
Yeah, so I'm kind of the opinion that EVs shouldn't sound like combustion engines. This is where I've come from. EVs shouldn't sound like combustion engines because four-cylinder shouldn't sound like a V8 or a V6 or an inline 5 or whatever. It's kind of faking it. And actually, we know that fuel cars have been faking the engine. Some of the engine signs. It's all been enhanced for ages because actually modern engines are pretty good at being quiet and not popping and banging and doing all of that sort of stuff anyway. And then I've had the Ioniq 5N for a week. Now that is in its full fat EV modes, completely silent, completely seamless, and an instant, the usual instant electrifying torque, and it's incredible. It's a stunningly fast car. But then I was kind of flicking through the modes on it, and I found this mode that started making an engine noise. Now, my God, at first it's this kind of Need for Speed, 1990s Need for Speed engine sound, and I was kind of like,
There's three, isn't there? There's 3 or 4 noises.
Three. Yeah. So there's one that's a jet engine, which the kids thought was fantastic, and I thought was quite annoying. There's one that's a kind of a futuristic engine sound, a futuristic EV noise designed to evoke the sensation of driving an EV, and the third one is a regular engine noise. Now, this is regular down to the fact that if you sit there and punch the throttle while it stood still, it'll hit a rev limiter. If you let off the throttle, then you'll get simulated exhaust crackle. All of this, to me, from the off, sounded like a complete gimmick. And then I just started driving around with it. And within a few minutes, it just felt like the most natural thing in the world. And actually, it does throttle back the performance. You can actually stick it in such a high gear that it'll labour. It'll pretend that it's labouring. It's got all this kind of. It doesn't need to labour. There's all the power is there all the time.
Did you think that you were actually not in an electric car at any point?
No, I always knew I was in an electric car, but it felt very natural to have that variation in power and to want to shift up and down to get the engine to perform. The powertrain. I just called it an engine.
But wait, Are you saying natural because that's what you're used to in a combustion engine car?
To an extent, yes. However, so when I had the Cyberster over Christmas, that is a car with an effortless amount of power. And I like the experience of driving an EV, and there's an awful lot of them out there that are seriously, seriously quick now. The trouble is, there's a level of interactivity you lose because you haven't got that interaction of just kind of, engaging with the powertrain and kind of getting it to perform differently to, even little things that in an EV help to me, like having the, regen on the paddle, so you can kind of up and down the regen, and you can kind of get a bit of engine braking that you can kind of control, and you can kind of dial a bit more in or a bit less in and all the rest of it. This is like a next layer on top of that. I mean, it's not the only thing. It's a layer on top of a car that's really quite an engaging car to drive anyway. Feels very mechanical, feels very natural, feels like a kind of a classic hot hatch. And just having that ability, having that kind of interaction of, when you want to, having the ability to just kind of have that setting on and just go up and down through the gears felt like it fitted the car really well. And it just added that little bit of interactivity to the driving experience. And also you get that sense of, you can hear how hard it's working or how hard it's pretending to work, how much you kind of how much you're pushing it, which you get with an engine, but you don't tend to get with an EV. When you get an EV, you punch it and it's everything all at once, right? Completely silent.
Funny enough, you should say that. All I can hear in the background on the road very close to me is bouncing off the limiter, which you can do, of course, in the Hyundai, can't you?
So what I'm trying to be like in the background, I've been trying to be clever, and I've tried to download it from the phone, all the different engine notes. So I'm going to see it in a moment if we can actually manage to share the sound effects.
I actually don't think it plays very well if you sit there and you rev it. So I mean, part of what I was worried about, I do still stick to, is that if you sit there and blip the throttle and stuff, it does sound like you're playing a 30-year-old video game. However, I whacked the volume down to about 50%, so I just had this kind of rumble in the car, and it felt it offered that little bit of kind of, I guess, combustion engine floor to the whole experience that actually I think fits the car really well. It just gave me a little bit of something extra to kind of interact with the car.
There's nothing wrong with 30-year-old like car games. I recently bought my daughter these new handheld things. It's like R36S or something. I think they were on TikTok shop all the time, 50 quid. Got it on Amazon, £35 or whatever it was. Chase HQ, Outrun, Chase HQ. I mean, I look back now of how awful the graphics are. Well, I used to love that game. Like Operation Wolf. It's even got GoldenEye on there. It's a bit laggy, but anyway, I digress. But yeah, it has
that. Mr. Driver, isn't it? Or something? Isn't that the Chase HQ thing?
Which one? Sorry.
Let's go, Mr. Driver, isn't it? That the speech that was in it. There wasn't much speech in games back then, was there?
Well, I think that's where I got my fascinated with rear slat windows from, because that was what the car was in Chase HQ. But who whack it in the comments? Who remembers Chase HQ? Because that, for me, that was the game. I used to love that game because I could never get past the first level. You'd bash the other car, wouldn't you, to try and you put the police siren on, and then I'm
not sure I remember this.
We had 3 turbos boosts to catch up with them.
Yeah, low and high gear. Yeah, classic, absolute classic. But it's funny you should say about the noises. So you're talking about cringeworthy on the combustion side, and although I haven't updated the Thor exhaust on the Tesla, because I've got the Thor triple speaker exhaust system. If people didn't know, I'm sure we've mentioned it a few times, but you might be new to channel, what have you. So my Tesla is pretty darn loud when I put it into certain modes. But the problem with it at the moment, because it hasn't got the map, which Ian, my friend, has got, where it does change gear. So at the moment, if you put it in like a a combustion noise, it'll go, and then it just sounds like it's at like 8 grand from like 760 plus, which isn't ideal. So it does need the change of gear, but yeah, it's yeah, I think it's quite nice to have that level of engagement. Although I think mine could be adjusted so I've got noise coming into the cabin and out. Well, outside, it depends on what you want. Depends on whether you want to upset people, show off, you know, Billy Big Balls, what have you, or if you wanted that interaction. But I suppose with the Hyundai Ioniq 5N, it is literally inside the car. It's not outside at all, is it?
That's an interesting thing on that, though, because it does say external speakers. And I'm wondering if it's a legal thing in the UK that you can't send it out of external speakers, because that didn't seem to make any difference on there. But there is the option there.
Interesting.
And I've noticed as well that in the UK, you can't, on the Blue Link, which is the app, you can't beep the horn, but you can in the States. So I'm wondering if there's certain regulations on stuff you're not allowed to do.
Yeah, you can beep the horn on the Tesla app.
Yeah, you definitely can on the Tesla app. Yeah.
Yeah, the Hyundai one doesn't work in the UK. It even warns you on it. So I'm wondering whether it's completely UK compliant, whereas some brands may not be 100% on that.
No. You mean disrupting? They're disrupting regulations in the UK. Yeah, disrupting the market by
Well,
as now it's got all blurry as if it's hidden my identity.
You have. I thought it was the beer I had earlier, but clearly not. But yeah, no, I don't know if anyone watched the YouTube short on Chargeheads UK channel, but I showed a video of the summon mode. So it was in jet fighter mode. So yeah, just got it driving along like with the noise. I thought that was quite funny. But I think, you know, I've had conversations. I've had a lot of negative comments on my Instagram video, which has done like 350,000 views somehow. I wish I got paid on Instagram. I'd be a much happier person for being ridiculed so much, but hey ho. But yeah, a lot of negative press, you know, vegan bacon, you know, gay, all the things you can think of to throw at an EV enthusiast and more. So, and obviously the EV element's probably a negative vibe anyway, but you know, it's sometimes I just drive the car without any noise at all. And that's the nice thing. It's like, oh, I can't be bothered with that. But you might be in that mode where you're in kind of attack mode, or, you know, whatever mode you want to call it, where you just want to be like, yeah, I'm just going to whack on the tunes. Do you know what? I'm going to give people some jet fighter noise right now. I'm going to give people some V8 noise. And that's just the way I look at it. It's just like a bit of fun, you know? Although for some reason my RS6 noise sounds like it's running on 6 cylinders and not 8. I'm not sure why. But yeah, what I was going to suggest, and I was going to ask people to pop it in the comments as well, how many cars actually do have noise on them? I was just thinking we could like count them up. So again, I don't know if you guys want to chip into this, but both the Minis have the electric noise, right? Have all the BMWs, or is it just the M50?
It's the new. No, I think all of the new BMW stuff. I'm trying to remember now. It's been a while since I've driven the BMW.
Does the i3 have noise?
The i3 I don't think does. No, it's the new generation stuff that has it.
Okay, so it's pretty much
i4,
mini...
i5. Yeah.
Okay, so anything BMW.
Sorry, I don't think i3 has it.
Yeah. Okay. Other than the Ioniq 5N, are there any other vehicles that make that noise? I can't think of any.
MX-30 does it as well. MX-30 now. The MX-30 actually kind of it's very cleverly done in the MX-30 because it doesn't sound like an engine. It just has a kind of a hum, and it's a very, very. It's bare.
The previous owner, the previous person that was in it, or sorry.
You get, it just gives you just a little bit of feedback in terms of, you know, and again, that's designed for that whole thing where Mazda's very keen on having the driver involved. So yeah, MX-30 makes a dependent on speed and load. It can kind of gives, the idea is to kind of give you that sense that there's something working under the bonnet. It's not just. I
was going to say they start at $9,500 now. Those things. That's because they got about 50-mile range.
I've managed to cue this up, so shall we put the N noise on? See if I can get.
Yeah, go for it. How are we going to do that? Are you popping it in comments or
video file? Oh, you can actually present a video file. So let's have a look at this.
Oh, it's gone blurry. Or is it my eyes again?
So here we go. That's one of the sound effects. That's the other one. And this is the one I prefer.
So it's a bit of a rattle at the end of that one. I'm not sure if that's something on your dashboard, but
no, it's exhaust crackle. You get exhaust crackle when you lift off, or when you change, when you change gear. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, mine does pop. I can choose the number of pops my exhaust makes. So it's 1, 2, or 3. You can change the idle note as well on mine, which is quite fun.
I thought of another car which has the engine noise. R-Bath 500e.
Oh yeah, but
yes, of course.
But it's only fixed gear again, so it's there, and it doesn't change gears. You just have this continuous tone.
Yeah.
And the flaw with the 500e R-Bath is you have to be stopped to switch it on or off, and in park. So once you've switched it on, you can't change it while you're driving like you can in the end. You can't just press a button and switch it off. So you're stuck with it until you can go into park, which gets quite annoying when it's one continuous tone.
New Dodge Charger does it as well. The new Dodge Charger. The new Dodge Charger EV does it as well.
Yeah, yeah. I would say I think out of all the ones I've heard, but it's very, very difficult, and everyone will slate my video, but actually hearing it in person compared to on a microphone or a handheld device is very, very different. And obviously drive-bys and that sort of thing. And I wanted to do in my last video. I didn't have time, unfortunately, to get some drive-bys just to show how realistic or not it would be. So yeah, I didn't need some help with a camera person for that. Maybe me coming around a corner, you hear this really, Larry V8 noise, and you're like, those sort of videos, you're like, oh, I wonder what's coming around the corner, and then you see a Tesla, you're like, I've wasted my life.
Gotcha.
So yeah, gotcha. So I think I'm going to do a couple of those videos at some point when I can. But just a little note, actually, while I remember, there's an EV meet that we're having, a Auto Anonymous breakfast meet, which is in Wixham's, Bedfordshire, and they are very EV friendly. And I put the details on my Facebook, so please check it out. And that is on March the 9th. So 10 o'clock, not March the 9th. If anybody wants to bring their electric vehicle or any car down there, you can, it's such an amazing eclectic mix of anything from retro 80s to 50s, 60s, max power, anything you can think of. It's a great mix. And I'm sure there'll be some modified EVs. And I think there's going to be an EV converted Beetle down there as well. Callum's bringing it down. So it should be a good mix. So come on down.
Speaking of engine noise, have you seen the video of the electric Beetle with the fake engine noise using a bottle and a spoon?
Yeah, I've seen a few of those.
Yeah, that is a good video, actually, because in fact, I'm not going to try and find it, but yeah, if you search electric Beetle, it's basically under the bonnet, as in the front bonnet on the Beetle, it's basically got this spindle and it's constantly hitting this empty plastic bottle, and it sounds rather realistic, because that's how bad Beetles sound, really. So, sorry, Alex.
No offense taken on that. They do. Yeah.
Oh, right.
That's the one clever thing that I found with the Ioniq 5N is the audio is directional. So it changes the speakers it comes out of. So the engine noise is more focused at the front, and the pops, bangs, and crackles come from the back.
Yeah.
Speakers. So it's directional in the car.
That's pretty cool. I wonder, because the Porsches make a bit of a noise, don't they? I'm sure the Porsche.
Yeah, and the Audi e-tron does as well. The Audi, e-tron GT makes quite a cool, again, it's a hum, but yeah, it's it makes a noise.
The Porsche and Audi close, yeah, that e-tron.
See, I've never driven the Taycan, but I've only ever driven the Audi. But you've
probably driven the Porsche then, haven't you? They're very similar, aren't they?
Yeah, pretty much. I suppose it's a bit like driving a Kona and a Nero, I suppose. But yeah, So from a noise point of view, I think it is obviously a safety thing. You know, there's a lot of pre-2021 cars through the EU directive that don't have any noise at all. And I think I've experienced when I didn't have any noise that, like, when you're in a very pedestrian heavy area, people just don't see you. So you have to like whack on some music, and it's a little bit obnoxious or whatever you want to call it to beep the horn. Everyone's like, who's this electric?
Yeah.
Whatever. So I think it is quite useful to have a noise, but from a safety point of view. But from a fun point of view, I think, you know, did you guys think that it helped the experience, the fun factor with the car that you drove?
I think it offers an extra level of interactivity. As I say, that it's nice to have that option. I wouldn't use it all the time, but I think there are certain drives where you want that, you know, you want that kind of level of, you know, going up and down through the gears and just having a bit of a hum in the background. And there's plenty of other times where you just want to stick it in eco mode or normal mode and just potter around silently and enjoy it being an EV. I mean, I think it's nice that it has both. And actually, it's so well done. I mean, that car, just everything on that car is so well done. Yeah, but I've
got a problem with that car though.
Go on.
There's too many buttons inside.
Spoken like a true Tesla owner.
Genuinely, there are lots of buttons inside that car. You got to admit, there are.
They're re-adding them. Hyundai's re-adding them, isn't it? They're going back to the buttons.
I think it's the button thing is definitely a Tesla thing, because I did some stuff with Sam from GridServe, and he's got a Model Y, and we were doing some stuff into Kia Niro EVs, and his first comment when we stopped for lunch was, "Why has this car got so many buttons?" And it's like, well, why has yours got so few buttons?
Well, a nice little feature, which I think it's just come on the update. You can press and hold the left button down on the Tesla, and you can change loads of stuff. Open the glove box, defrost mode, change the wiper settings, which is a really good one. Acceleration boost, so I don't have to go to the menu screen. Because what really gets me with the menu screen, I know this is off piece a little bit, but with the Tesla, it's like, okay, we've got the big screen that you need to play around with. And when you're in full self-driving mode, which mine's got, FSD, it like tells you off for looking at the screen. I'm in FSD mode. It's motorway. It's fine. You deal with it. But it's still like as a moan.
That's the one thing that I always find weird with Teslas in general. When you think of all the cars, like even the Ioniq 5N has a head-up display. Surely that is the future, having a head-up display, and Tesla should have one if it's supposed to be futuristic.
Yep.
Just have a HUD that reflects off the window.
It's got to be a cost thing, but I mean, I must admit, I know I've had a lot of up-to-date Audi VWs, and I've never ever had like a head-up display, so I couldn't tell you if I'd miss it or not. And that's the thing with any technology on a car. Once you've had it, you're like, and if it's even like mildly useful, you probably want it on your next car. A bit like, I don't know, heated steering wheel. I haven't got that on my car, but I can imagine during the winter, that's a flipping godsend.
Adaptive cruise control.
Oh yeah, that just goes without saying. Adaptive cruise. So it's going to be a bit of a culture shock when I get into the TVR and I've got a steering wheel.
But that's the thing. I mean, I've spent all day today driving around in my car, which is 34 years old and doesn't have any of this doesn't have very many buttons in it. Because there's not a lot of stuff to control. Yeah,
good noise.
Yeah, it makes a good noise. But there are certain things you're talking about, things that you miss when you go back to it. But I like driving that car. Like, I enjoy driving it. But there are certain times where it would be nice to just be able to stick it in cruise control and just potter along in it. You know, like the long motorway journeys, if you're used to having cruise control and that sort of stuff, that's one of those things that you miss. And I think that's one of these things with the sound, going back to the 5N, is that having that ability to have that multiple cars in one is quite a nice thing.
Yeah, and this is what I like, is the fact that you can turn it off. You can be obnoxious. You can be a complete Barry Boy racer, which I like to do sometimes. But that's what I like about it, is the fact that not only has it got the ice noise, so you could do that route, or you could do the electric noise, or you could just simply turn it off, or just do random dog noises, like when you're driving past, just to really upset people. I suppose the only negative with my system is the fact that it's off an app. So theoretically, you can't play around with it while you're driving. So. But what do you think is, for new performance cars coming out? And I think there will be a lot more electric cars. I think it might be worth us talking about the Porsche news that came out this week as well. You know, do we think that performance focused EVs should have a noise, and should it just be in, out, both? What do we think?
Well, I think it's interesting because the Hyundai's got settings on it. And I think it's interesting that what Alex's choices were to mine, because I just got in there and whacked the engine notes up to full volume on it, whereas Alex toned it down. And you'd think we'd probably be the other way around, because Alex driving the Polo, it's not the most quiet car compared to that. So,
and just for viewers, it's not just a normal Polo, guys. It's a Polo G40, the king of polos, as I think. But sorry, Kev.
So it's interesting how I turned it up and you turned it down. So I think is it just the noise in the end, or is it the virtual gear shifts that what makes it? Is it a combination of both?
I think it's a combination of both. Now, the interesting thing with that is, I've mentioned it before, I know on here, is that Toyota got absolutely ridiculed for doing something the other year with it was a couple of years ago now, where they did something with a gear shift. So they had a pseudo gear stick and a pseudo clutch, which if you want to drive an EV as an EV, you just drive it on the other two pedals, but you've got a clutch pedal there which you can activate or deactivate, and a gear stick which you can activate or deactivate. And if you press the pseudo clutch, it will cut off the torque to the wheels as if you're putting a clutch in, and then you can shift up and down through gears, and you can download different I think it was only the performance profiles of different engines, not the sound, but it possibly was the sound as well. I can't remember. But you could essentially have it within one car. You could decide, well, I want to drive to work in an A86 Corolla, and I want to drive home in a Lexus LFA, and it all just, you know, or you can just turn it all off and have it as a two pedal EV. And they got ridiculed for it. And actually, I think it's one of those things where it's like, I still think there is a place for that stuff, because we're still in the transition period and so on. But how you offer something that's uniquely EV, that's a little bit trickier. I think in some ways we need to get used to an EV sound, in the same way that like modern petrol engines don't sound like old petrol engines, and different configurations of petrol engine and diesel engine even don't sound the same. I think we do over time need to get used to an EV sound, an EV soundtrack, and that can be different to doesn't have to sound like a combustion engine at all. There's no need for it to do so. But I think if you're talking about performance EVs, I'm actually quite surprised to be arguing for the fact that yes, actually noise does add something to the experience.
Do you find it interesting? The car that you picked to describe with Toyota was an AE86, and I just have visions of those going sideways around a drift track, which is a mode that is available on the Ioniq 5N, a drift mode where it can actually help you drift.
Yeah. Not
for use, but if you go into the menus, there's lots of things that say not for use on public roads. It's got lots of disclaimers.
My favorite, I think, thing that I thought on that just made me smile is there is a mode you can activate, and if it sees one of those warning signs where it says twisty road ahead, it can advise you to put it into sport mode. So it'll see the sign and it'll flash up a message going twisty roads ahead. Do you want to have some fun? And it'll let you put it into sport mode. I thought it was quite funny. It's just a little. There's a sense of joy to it. I think that's.
But are you gonna give away what they've called it on their website? That mode.
Corner Rascal, isn't it? Is it Corner Rascal?
Yeah. Corner Rascal. That sounds amazing. I must admit, and Beck, thanks for whacking commenting. I was beginning to think that the comments weren't working because we're on X today. But yeah, just include noise option with the car and allow the driver to choose if the sound is on and off. Easy peasy. Completely agree, mate. Absolutely. With the drift mode, it's an interesting one, because I haven't actually had a proper play with the drift mode on the Tesla yet. But I know that, having a manual and a clutch, being able to clutch kick, and I don't know, it's going to feel really weird drifting an electric car. But I just need another set of wheels for the Tesla, and then I'm going to do a drift what you brung day Santa Pod or something, and I think it's going to be so much better, because I've seen loads of electric cars drift, and just hearing the wheels getting hammered is just not the same. Yeah, because like you think about an S14 or a Skyline, that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. That always makes things feel much better in the world when you hear a dump valve and a wastegate and all the rest of it. So it'd be really interesting having the Tesla with the noises drifting. So I'm hoping that will actually be quite a good video. So when I do it, so watch this space. We'll get there eventually. So if anyone's got a spare set of tires on a Tesla Model 3 18s they could sell me or lend me, that would be much appreciated. Sorry, Kev.
Yeah, the interesting thing is after the test of it, I ended up joining the Ioniq 5 owners group on Facebook. And there's some quite spirited drivers on there.
Yes.
I feel. There was one person who posted they got 2,500 miles out of their tires.
Sounds completely normal to me. Reminds me of my Toyota Aygo company car after I got my license back from speeding when I used to work for Toyota. Stephen Eagle, thanks for changing them. The drift mode. I mean, it's all these things that make it a more exciting driving experience. And this is the thing with EVs, is the fact that you hear about, everyone says that they're really sterile and all the rest of it, and that is a good argument, you could say, for a lot of the EVs out there, including Tesla, and this is what I try and do on the channel to make it more interesting, chaving it up a bit with different bits and bobs and all the rest of it. But what does the ultimate electric car look like from a driver enthusiast point of view? I think we've all worked out that actually sound is part of that. I think it would be better to have an actual, the actual noise from the motor, whether it's an amplifier on the motor. And this is what the TVR project was planning to have, because I was never going to have fake noise on the TVR because, I'm never into it. But, what else would make an exciting and engaging electric car? So, noise, is there anything else? Obviously taking all the traction control off, I think, is important, just so you've got that option for instant death mode, which I think is important if you're a proper driver. But is there anything else that you could add to an electric car to give you that engagement?
I think again it's the software defined gear shift. I mean, and this is the thing with the electric vehicles, we've kind of entered the age of the software defined vehicle, where stuff is so easy to implement. It can all be done in software. So I mean, and I wasn't convinced that the gear shifts would feel convincing until I drove it, and they genuinely do feel convincing. I mean, even I really thought it would just be a gimmick, but bouncing off the rev limiter. Bear in mind that actually there's not many places you can bounce off the rev limiter, because I think it goes to about 70 miles an hour in first, but so
is it really?
It's quite high on the speed in first, isn't it?
That's a long first gear.
That is a long first gear. Wow. Yeah. I think my Daihatsu Charade GTTR was like 30 miles an hour in first back in the day. What's the Polo G40 in first gear, Alex?
First, I'm not sure. Second is mid 60s. It'll hit 60 in second gear.
Take her out. Take her out. I don't know what it is on the Porsches, because obviously the Porsches and the Audi RS e-tron GT is such a mouthful. They've obviously got 2 gears, but I think they don't change. When I was having a conversation with Chris Hazel at Zero EV, now Felton, he was saying that they don't change gear. They just stay in they don't change gear while you're accelerating, apparently. Do you know anything about that?
I would say they probably got, I don't know. I did try and interview them about it. Did a feature about gears and EVs for a trade magazine a few years ago, and I didn't manage to get an interview with Porsche or Audi for it, annoyingly. So I'm not up to speed with exactly how they work in that, but from what I can remember, it's just like an overdrive thing for kind of higher speed cruising. So you get the acceleration, but then it sort of shifts into it does all the acceleration on one, and then a higher speed stuff on the higher gear.
Sorry, when I wasn't looking, a load of comments came in. Mark Fowler, thanks for commenting. All other EV brands producing anything remotely performance-based will be working on synthetic gears, surely. Yeah, potentially. Well, I'm not sure. Watch Misha. Yeah, I always watch Misha's stuff, but I don't think I've seen him in the Ioniq 5N. Yeah, I'm sure he did love it. I'm sure he has loved some of the modified Tesla Model 3s when they sorted out the brakes, because that was obviously an issue with the the Model 3s, and he drove that Tesla Model S Plaid. And he was pretty impressed, which was modified. A bath has noise. Yes, you're a bit late to the party there, Paul, because I think we did mention that, but thanks for commenting anyway. i5N is no gimmick. It feels so realistic. Engine noises from front, gearing from middle, and overdrive burbles from the rear subwoofer. Yes, indeed. Yeah, it's yeah.
I mean, I did notice reviewing it though, the hate I got not just for the noise, but the number of people said it can't be a performance car as an SUV, and I wouldn't class the Ioniq 5 as an SUV. Big hatchback, but it's not an SUV, is it?
It's big. It is big.
It is big. The thing that I was surprised about is all the bits that I enjoyed on it, and this is the thing I think has gone a little bit wrong. We were talking about ingredients of like performance EV and enthusiast EV. I think there's been a massive focus on power. We touched on this in an early episode. Is that you could take all the really good stuff from an Ioniq 5N and you could put it in something 75-80% the size, 2/3 the weight, and half the power, and it would be just as much fun. I reckon
they've already done it. Have you seen that stripped down Ioniq 5i 5N? It looks like a skeleton.
I haven't seen that. No.
Oh, mate, honestly, yeah, it just basically looks like a go-kart, which is based on. It's the same car.
That's the chassis, yeah.
Ridiculous. And funnily enough, talking about that, I recently shared it on the Chargeheads Facebook group. Nissan, what they did with the R32 GTR. I don't know if they've put any noise to it, but what they did with that car, they have.
Yeah, it makes a noise. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't. Maybe I need to look at a more detailed video then. But that is, I mean,
it's a stunning build. That is a stunning build. I know it got a lot of hate, but I think it's a stunning, pretty car. I love it.
I never did buy one. I nearly bought one when they were about, I don't know, 15 grand, but yeah, I didn't in the end. But yeah, I mean, I've had an R33 GTST, but the R32 GTR Consular is obviously the ultimate. So yeah.
The interesting thing is, we know that there's an Ioniq 6N due, isn't there, when the facelift comes out? Yeah. But it'd be interesting. I mean, I'm guessing Hyundai will get their EV3 equivalent. Which,
yes, that
would be interesting as an N car. So what would it be though? I can't remember. They haven't announced where there's going to be an Ioniq 4 or anything yet, have they?
No, they haven't. No. So they've gone bigger rather than smaller so far. But the Kona kind of fills in that bit of the market. There was a Kona M before, wasn't there? So I mean, I don't suppose the current Kona EV powertrain is kind of designed for the same. I mean, the Ioniq 5N is not just a 5 with some go faster bits on it and the power turned up. It's a proper performance car with huge power and other things, but it's the other things that make it great. The huge power gets it talked about. The other bits make it. Those huge power is a great novelty, right? It's something that's really enjoyable. Yeah, but the other bits that make it really feel like a proper driver's car are the things that you will experience more day to day, and kind of I think really engage with, and that's the bit that has the lasting appeal for me, is that kind of engagement when you want it, and the EV side of things when you don't, when you just want to potter around. The ultimate hot hatch.
What Mark's mentioned about Misha's working on aero with the Hyundai Ioniq 5N, so thanks for highlighting that. And there's a DK edition, Drift King. I've not seen that. Is that the one that I was talking about earlier that was like the skeleton thing?
No, it's a standard one. They didn't change the suspension, but they've kind of tweaked it a bit more. So put bigger brakes on it again, even though it's got massive brakes.
You got. I don't know if you guys have ever driven a drift car or a car with extra lock, because honestly, from a drifting point of view, you can get it to some. I used to have an S14 with extra lock, and you can just get it to the most stupid angle and always get it back. It's just makes so much difference. Dean's mentioned, hey Dean, still not sent your T-shirt. Sorry, mate. Will Alpine make this sort of engagement with the R5?
I hope so.
Yes. Yeah,
I'm really excited about the A290. That's this year for me. That is top of my want to drive list this year. I really, really want to have a go in that. That's right up my Strasser.
Is it front wheel drive in your Strasser?
Front wheel drive, yeah.
Okay. Well, that could be actually a lot of fun. I tell you, do you know what? this is something that I really want on my Tesla Model 3, but I daren't cut up my car, is having a handbrake. That'd be really fun for drifting. I know that EV Brake has got a Tesla Model 3 Performance, which is caged, fully stripped, and they've got an e-brake on it. That would be so much fun to have a handbrake on for drifting and stuff.
Yeah.
There's you know what it's
handbrake.
like, do you know what it's like with modified cars? Is like, if it's your daily, it gets to the point where it's not really daily. You know, it's not really a daily anymore. It's more of a
Hydraulic handbrake's not going to get in your way.
It's going to get in the way of my coffee and my water thing.
I'm trying to think what's going to.
Have a thing that you can take it off and just clip it in place when you want it, and just have a pin that you pull out. And
yeah, well, let's see how I get on with the drifting. If it's definitely needed and it's going to get me a shed load of views and everyone go Chargeheads, yeah, let's go, then yeah, maybe I should.
Speaking of enthusiast cars, by the way, and interesting things with EVs, have you seen the other hot Ioniq 5? They're doing a kind of Baja inspired one with like jacked up suspension and stuff.
No,
it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I think it's an American only thing, but it looks it's like got raised suspension and sort of smaller wheels and bigger tires and extra cladding and stuff. One of the American magazines was testing it recently. I was like, I've never seen that. I didn't even know that existed. It's pretty cool.
This is where we cue Kevin talking about the Ford Mustang. Go.
That's another one with noise, as I remember, because actually that was the first one with noise, wasn't it? And in untamed mode, which is a different name in the States. It's not untamed in the States. It's called something else. And I can't for the life of me remember.
Unbridled, isn't it? Is it unbridled?
Yeah, there's a different name for it. But I mean, and based on that Baja type thing, because Ford have done the Rally Mustang Mach-E, haven't they? With the Compomotive star wheels.
There it is. That's what I was waiting for. That's what I was waiting for, Kev. Yeah. So I know that's a favourite of yours, that car, isn't it? You love it.
Well, it's got me a few certificates for the wall, isn't it? So
there you go. Drops it into the private chat. It's the Ioniq 5 XRT. So for a different kind of Ioniq 5 enthusiastic Ioniq 5 driver, I think it's pretty cool.
XRT. Oh, that's a bit tasty. Let me see if I can whack it on the for those watching on the camera. Share screen? No. Oh, this is going to go wrong. I'll give it a go anyway. Window. There we go. Share.
Well, that's probably a bit more SUV-ish.
Hopefully everyone can see that.
It's got little red tow hooks and other bits and pieces on it.
Look at all those buttons. So many buttons.
Glorious.
Look at them. They've living everywhere. Yeah.
Wow. Oh, you've done that weird thing where we all went into infinity then.
Yes. There we go. But yeah, I'm interested to know how our X feed is going today, whether we've got a couple of people on there. But no, it's been great to talk about the electric noise. And just, I've talked about handbrake, we've talked about drift mode. Is there anything else that we can make electric cars more fun? More fun. This is what I'm all about, making electric cars more fun. Because everyone talks about them being shit and boring.
Ultimately, the thing that will make them more fun eventually is solid-state batteries when the weight's back down again.
Yeah, I was just going to say weight. Yeah, weight is a big part of it.
Because how much heavier is your TVR going to be than the original?
It's going to be similar. It's like, I think it's going to be about 70 key more, because we're not going crazy on the battery size. It's only like 40 kilowatt hours. So
what sort of range are you expecting out of that? It's just a curiosity, because if you reduce the battery size, you're compromising
100 and like on a summer's day when I'm not giving it the full beans. The drag coefficient, whatever you want to call it, is pretty good on the wedge. It's not great, but it's not bad. This is maybe something I need to factor in when I'm modifying the exterior, is how we can eke out a few more miles out of the battery. So yeah, this is going to be important, especially because I've got to Gaffer tape, yes. Yeah, the
No,
gaffer
that's
tape.
That's
Adds
what they
50
use to
great.
hold. That's what they use to hold the TVR together. Is gaffer tape.
Oh, no. No. It wasn't that sticky, mate. It was probably Pritt stick. The i3 was designed properly, take the weight out of the chassis and design everything else using the correct materials. Absolutely. Yes. I wouldn't mind an i3.
There hasn't been anything since that they've made out of that material. BMW. They've gone back to conventional materials.
7 Series. I think I don't know if I can't remember if the 11 Series was the previous generation 7 Series had a carbon fiber monocoque in it, or a partially carbon. It wasn't a fully carbon fiber monocoque, but bits of it were carbon fiber. So if you open the wheels up, the B pillars had, if I can remember, had exposed carbon fiber on them. So the previous 7 Series, it's still bloody heavy, mind. The 7 Series. So I had a
the i7.
No, there's a previous 7 Series.
Oh, okay.
The previous 7 Series had a partially carbon fiber construction. It had, I'm sure, in the B pillars there was a section of exposed carbon fiber. It wasn't the whole thing wasn't carbon fiber, but sections of it definitely were. I had one for 6 weeks about 7 years ago, and it's I remember turning up at a cheap hotel with a car park next door, and the car park had a weight limit of 2.1 tons, and I drove up and thought, I don't know how much this weighs, and it said 2.25. It was a long wheelbase 730 LE X drive, so it was 4-wheel drive, plug-in hybrid. So I pulled up outside reception and walked in. It was about 1:30 in the morning, and there was like one just completely empty apart from Sky reception. I was like, the car park, the weight on it's like 2.1. I was like, is that for like just to stop you taking like vans in? He's like, no, it's a strict weight limit for the bridge to get in. I was like, okay. I said, my car's over the weight limit. Where should I put it? He goes, oh, there's a coach park out the back. So I came out the following day, and it's this row of coaches with this like 7 Series in the middle of it, and then the row of coaches look completely out of place. But yeah, that's just an aside. Weight is definitely a thing. Weight is definitely a thing. I think take that out, and yeah.
I need to remember that hotel because aren't I 2.2? And I'm probably slightly lighter because I've got the smaller battery, but the Ioniq 5N is 2.2 something, isn't it?
Yeah, it is 2.2 something, yeah.
So that couldn't go there either.
Since though we've been talking about the 5N quite a lot, which is obviously relevant with what we're talking about. But what I was really interested with is the poor efficiency. It was really bad on efficiency, wasn't it? I mean, the efficiency king on my left, hopefully that works well with the camera. I mean, you weren't getting much more than like 3.5 out of it, were you?
I tried my efficiency route to see the most I could get out of it. I got 4.2 out of it, and no one on the Ioniq 5N owners club would believe me. They said you must have used a mirror, and it's 2.4. But I mean, it's sat around 3 when I did a run, just gently in eco mode. It's not awful. I mean, I'm trying to think of a petrol car that would get you decent miles per gallon with that much brake horsepower.
Yeah. I was in the low 2s by the end of the week, but I
wonder. I was going to say, I wonder if the Yang Wang has electric noise. Does anybody know in the comments? Anybody know if the Yang Wang, is it the U2? Is it something like that?
Does the Xiaomi one have them?
The networking one. Yeah,
the Xiaomi with the 2-pot calipers. Because apparently the brakes on that Xiaomi thing are absolutely awful. And they got big covers over the brake calipers, a bit like the MG4 X-Power. It's a shame. I'll tell you what, the MG4 X-Power, it's a shame that didn't have noise. That could have maybe got a few more people purchasing that car. Because they're cheap. So
for me, when you talk about kind of a step back before the noise, almost, there's little things that can all add up. I mean, I talk a lot about having those paddles on the steering wheel and just being able to kind of have that adjustability. I mean, I'm not a fan. I mean, all the Stellantis stuff it has at least got that B mode on it that you can switch it into, but there's no, I like having the steps that you can wind it on and off in degrees and have that control over it. And I think having that control over it and having that control over the way the power is delivered is a big part of it. Interestingly, I mean, there's nothing to stop with software and, you know, a few little bits of hardware added in. There's nothing to stop adding a bit of haptic feedback in terms of, you know, some vibration through the, you know, force feedback, you know, like a PlayStation wheel through the wheel. Just that slight buzz of, you know, if you have it in the mode with the gear shifts, and when you really rev it, you can get a slight buzz through the steering wheels, maybe even through the pedals as well.
It sounds like Mark Fowler's. It sounds like Mark Fowler's actually got a Ioniq 5N. Is that right, Mark? Because you've been very specific with potential efficiency on your on a 5N there. You talk about the haptic feedback. That's what we're doing with the TVR. We've de-engineered it to make it vibrate. Bearing in mind, it's going to have the motor going into the prop shaft, into the rear diff. So there should be some kind of whine to it before it breaks. So
the normal Ioniqs do have, well, most of the new Hyundai stuff has haptic feedback. For the rear cross traffic, it vibrates the wheel. So it's got the hardware already in it to do that. So
fair point. Yeah, fair point.
Yeah, I think it feels like we're closing to an end, but what I'd like to do is get some feedback from people in the comments section, actually. And please give us a like, please give us a share. It looks like we've got a decent number of people on today, which is great. So thanks for joining in. But we haven't actually got a subject for next week. Now I'm quite keen to talk about Elon Musk and all the Tesla antics at the moment. What does everybody think on the comments? Because it'd be interesting to see what people want us to talk about with our experience in the EV world. Guys, have you got any ideas for next week for subjects?
That could be an interesting discussion in this group, couldn't it?
I think it would be a really interesting discussion because there's I think there's some people out there saying, oh no, I'm going to sell my Tesla, I'll never have another Tesla, and there's people putting stickers out there, all the lefty media out there, I bought this Tesla before Elon went mad, I think is the sticker that everyone's seeing.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm quite happy to put a sticker on there saying Elon's right, not far right, or something along the lines of I've decided to buy another Tesla because Elon's antics just been so fantastic.
That's an interesting one.
There we go. Mark has had an Ioniq 5 since November. What did you have before, Mark? What OEMs will be around in 10 years' time? We did
an interesting one.
We did that, didn't we?
No,
we did.
Yeah, I don't think so. We did. We did the fragile state of EV.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we did that last, didn't we? I'm sure we did that a few weeks ago, quite a few weeks ago. Model 3
away from a Tesla.
Mark, did Elon upset you too, or what's your thoughts around the differences between the Ioniq and the Tesla? Mark, really interested to hear your thoughts on that. Dean's Alex doesn't mind VW Hitler connection. Tesla, your next car.
I was having a discussion about this earlier, actually, and saying because there was a discussion on Threads about vandalizing Teslas, and I was saying that if you're vandalizing Tesla, it's a pretty crappy protest because it's not Elon Musk's car. You're also putting money back into the Tesla system because of replacement parts and so on. It's just a dumb thing to do, and it's a anyway. But there was the feedback on that was kind of like, well, anyone who's bought it knows what he's like. It's like most car companies, you don't know anything really about the CEO. I know Tesla's made it very easy to attract that kind of attention, and maybe we're getting into this prematurely on this, but
this is just a little taster of what we're going to talk about next week. Then I think,
yeah, most car companies, you wouldn't know the politics of the CEO, would you? So it's Elon Musk's made it very public and tied himself very closely to the brand. But I think how far does that protest go? Who do you go after because of their ethics, and how much due diligence are you supposed to do before you buy your car? It just, to me, it feels like quite a hollow argument, really.
The CEO isn't really the brand. That's the problem. It's like the car brand is many, many engineers and loads of people. I mean, I've heard a rumor that one brand chief exec escaped in a musical instrument case, but so they're all a bit.
Well, there we go. We're definitely going to be talking about the Musk connection to Tesla next week, the ins and outs, because I love that subject, and I'm sure it'll be fun. Hopefully, it won't get too heated. Hopefully, we'll still have a episode the following week afterwards, and we won't. Someone we're not going to storm off the channel. We're not like that. Mark's saying that they're night and day. That's fine. It's your prerogative, mate. So I've got someone back ready to fill the slot. Their night and day difference. I only miss a few QOL.
Quality of life.
Okay, features that Tesla have. For me, I mean, just to end it on this really, I suppose, just before we talk about what we're doing this week, is the fact that the Tesla, you know, the Ioniq 5 NR N and the BMW i4 M50, and I've said this before, they feel like you want to drive them fast, which is not good for me because I've got a reputation and an experience of points and many other things. So the Tesla's great for me because it's chill, and that's why I like it. Yeah, but I was going to say just before we wrap up, and again, thanks very much everyone for joining in. Talk about what we're doing this week. I'm, as always, working for Dynamon. I'm off to Brussels for the European Commercial Fleet Summit, so that's going to be an interesting one in Brussels. So, what are you guys up to this week?
So I'm back in a plug-in hybrid from Wednesday, but one of the new generation of plug-in hybrids that does similar range to the early EVs, an MGHS, which is supposed to do over 70 miles range to charge. So I'm interested to see.
It's a good car.
Right.
It is good.
Yeah,
it is a good car.
But you're saying it doesn't do 70 miles with you. So I'm expected to get 100 out of it, yeah?
Yeah, you'll easily get 100, maybe more.
What about yourself, Alex? What are you doing? Or is it nod, wink, wink, no, I mean?
Switching out of, so I'm having a cab session at the moment. I've been driving post Ioniq 5N. I've been driving the new Santa Fe hybrid, not plug-in hybrid like Kevin, which is quite interesting because some of the figures are interesting to compare between the two, because I'm actually getting better efficiency in hybrid mode than the plug-in hybrid was getting, which is interesting considering Kevin's like the master of this stuff. Anyway, and I'm swapping. I've got an E3. I've ended up with a slight crossover with an E3008, so I've been driving that as well, Peugeot. And I've got an Alfa Romeo Junior, which is arriving first thing on Wednesday morning, and I'll be driving to Heathrow to fly to see. I'm
glad we managed to edit that out. Well done. Guys, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Thanks to Alex, thanks to Kevin, and thanks for everyone who's joined in. Don't forget to see us next week for, I'm sure it will be a very interesting debate. And this week on the Chargeheads UK channel, I've got a in-depth interview with Chris Hazel and his arrival van and a proper tour around Felton. That's coming out Wednesday at 8 o'clock. So yeah, check that out. Thanks, everyone. See you next time.